Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on the Titans of Tech, Challenges and Opportunity in APAC. So I'm Peter Zemsky, a strategy professor at INSEAD and Deputy Dean of Innovation. Let me say before we get into the topic that this is a collaboration, our first collaboration with SGN, the Singapore Global Network, maintained by the Economic Development Board of Singapore. And it brings together a whole range of people from around the world and the region interested in news and of developments in Singapore, but also just broadening their network. So thank you, SGN, for collaborating with us on this. Let's do the webinar etiquette, because there may be people who are new to INSEAD webinars. So we look to make this interactive. I'm going to look to facilitate the conversation and increasingly steer it to the topics of interest to you. What you'll see on Zoom is that we've enabled the Q&A tab. So just as you're listening, put questions in, and I've got my amazing partner, Anne-Eve, who runs lifelong learning at INSEAD, who will be monitoring that and synthesizing questions so that we steer this conversation in a direction that's of interest to you. All right, so let's introduce the topic. So before I bring on our great speakers, why this topic? Well, obviously, we're all trying to see where the world is going post-pandemic. And clearly, one of the big things that's been accelerated, we know that, is digitalization. But that's also very clearly reinforced the position of the big tech players, of platforms, whether it's in media and advertising or commerce or cloud and hardware. These are important parts of almost any company's ecosystem. But at the same time, these trends are interacting. So we also have heightened concerns about responsibility. What are you doing about wellness? What are you doing about the planet? And finally, interesting from an INSEAD perspective, we're seeing a move towards deglobalization, fragmentation, so that on the one hand, even though tech with its fixed costs and scale wants to be global, at the same time, a lot of the action in tech is regional, and certainly Southeast Asia has traditionally been a very dynamic and even more so today market. And we really want to dig in, as you have to these days, and understand the dynamics in individual regions. So with that, let's bring up our two panelists. So Helena and Alan, welcome. So Alan Chan is the Chief Risk Officer of Lazada Group, leading e-commerce platform in Southeast Asia, and we'll get him to tell us more about that for those who maybe don't shop in Southeast Asia. And Helena Lersch, please join us, Director, Public Policy and Corporate Social Responsibility. Again, for those of you who don't have teenagers, I guess, and maybe are less familiar with TikTok, she will also be giving us a little bit of background on that. So Helena, Alan, welcome to the webinar. Thanks for coming out. I should say they're both based in their company headquarters in Singapore. So I mean, maybe just a first question. What's in your sector for your companies? What's the high level impact of the pandemic been? How's it advanced your growth? And then after we get that out there, let's look forward to some of the key opportunities and challenges you're seeing. Helena, maybe I think you guys have some news coming out. How's the pandemic been for ByteDance and TikTok?
Thanks, Peter, and thanks everyone for joining. I'm very honored to speak here today, and I'm actually, it's a very exciting week for us because we just announced 1 billion monthly users on TikTok. TikTok is a short video platform. Some of you may be parents. Some of you may have started using the platform last year during the pandemic as well. So we have experienced massive growth the last couple of years, and we've just also announced 240 million monthly users in Southeast Asia. So we're very proud of our Southeast Asia growth. I've personally actually joined TikTok in 2018. I started working in an office next to the laptop boxes in Suntec City in Singapore. I think I changed offices 6 times since then. We now have a workforce of more than 1,000 people in Singapore. And so I think for me, the last 3 years have been incredible, also sometimes incredibly challenging as we were building our operations. think we're a platform that is very local, that is very based on the local interests that our users want to see, which is why we also have offices in Southeast Asia. And so, for us, the pandemic has been a huge driver of growth. Obviously, also given the amount of people that were stuck at home during the pandemic, and really coming to TikTok for entertainment and also for some funny moments and joy.
That's great. Maybe later we can maybe explore a little bit how you rapidly scale when it's so hard to meet, and so many topics we could dig into. Alan, what about over in e-commerce? How's that been playing out the last few years?
Firstly, I want to congratulate Helena and ByteDance TikTok, 1 billion monthly users. That's awesome. And I am part of the 1 billion users.
That's great.
And I want to say for me and my family, I'm pretty sure we contribute quite a bit of time spent on the app itself. I think it's a reflect about, but our mission is very clear. Our mission is to really serve the merchants as well as the consumers in Southeast Asia. And for us, the pandemic has been a challenge and also an opportunity, right? We are seeing a lot of merchants having their business impacted because of changes in regulations, changes in lockdown of cities. But at the same time, e-commerce has been deemed more and more as an essential service. Many of you who are in Singapore know what that means. It means that, to have things delivered to your house when it is not safe to go outside, and somebody needs to run the supply chain, the logistics, somebody has to keep the lights on. So one of the things that we do a lot in the past pandemic is to really enable more merchants to come online to the platform. At the same time, to really be able to use the platform and reach out to more consumers. So we have really great news to share. In fact, just a month and a half later, it's going to be Double 11. It's the biggest shopping season, right? And the best discounts, the busiest times, and our warehouses will be packed. I don't have photos today to share, but if I do have a chance, you will see, piles and piles of parcels packing up. And it's a very exciting time as well because it's year-end shopping for many people. So I think overall, we are seeing challenges for us, Lazada in Southeast Asia. But at the same time, we're also seeing it as an opportunity to really enable merchants to do business online in Southeast Asia.
Massive growth as well in your sector, but also, actually getting goods to move in today's world is not as trivial maybe as it used to be. Another thing we might dig into. Maybe Helena, come back to you though, just as we launch into the conversation. What do you see, the leaders around you at TikTok? What are some of the key challenges, the key opportunities that are that you're prioritizing?
Yeah, I think for me, I have grown my team to 50% actually during the pandemic. I have not met personally 60% of people that are in my team and that I manage. And I think this is a challenge that leaders across ByteDance have, given this is sort of the pandemic hit us at a cycle at the stage where the company was still hiring very fast. And I think a challenge for me as a leader is obviously building that relationship with key leaders in my team that sit in other time zones, that are building teams in Turkey, in Australia, in Indonesia that I have never met, and sort of building trust, and also making sure that the company mission and the company principles are embedded in their everyday management. And I think doing this from abroad was definitely a challenge. I do think it's working. I think it sometimes costs a little bit more time. Obviously, I think we all spend a lot of time on video call. I will also be honest that I can't wait to meet my team in person. I really can't wait to host an offsite. But I think it was possible. I think in the beginning of the pandemic, we didn't think that we could grow our office also in Singapore from working from home. And I think it is possible. I think just being very empathetic with each other, giving people time, ignoring whatever is happening in the background is very important. And having really having empathy for each other and the challenges we were going through while we were also experiencing this massive growth, I think is very important.
Nice. Alan, do you want to maybe just to stick on that theme for a second before we go to your challenges? How has it been for you and people inside Lazada managing through this, including when you still have to get people into those warehouses and such?
Absolutely. And we have this program in Lazada where many of our colleagues who are working in warehouses, they have to be in warehouses, and some of them work on 24-hour shifts. Nearer to home, I know that many of the audience today are based in Singapore. Our warehouse all the way west, around Jurong Fishery Port Road. During busy times, it runs on a 24-hour shift. The first truck goes out at 5 a.m, right? So you can imagine that as an e-commerce business, it's really important for us to make sure that we have the responsibility to make sure that as our merchants, sell their stuff online, and as consumers search for them, enjoy them, compare prices, buy them, that we fulfill the promise, of making sure that the parcel comes in the right time, in the right form, in the hands of consumers. And so we really applaud and also give all the support to our Lazada heroes, our colleagues working in the front line. For the other colleagues who are actually based in the offices, very much like Helena, right? It's been a challenge. I had the opportunity to travel for a little bit during the pandemic period, and I felt a little bit uncomfortable meeting real people. I don't know how you guys actually feel, right? But having a dinner, becomes so precious. And at the same time, we are also recruiting and hiring aggressively. We are hiring a lot of people in this period, where from all fields, to data scientists, engineers, marketing specialists, and for my area, people in the data science, tech background. And for new people to come on board to a new company, it can be quite tricky. So we have ways to handle this. We try and make the onboarding experience as smooth as possible. We spend more time, on video calls instead of having it as an audio call. We encourage people to turn on the video call. So we are trying to adapt because we think that this kind of pandemic will carry on for a while more.
No, it gets better, but it drags on. That's for sure. Maybe let me stay focused on the people side, but why don't we look outside a bit? Because it's not just your employees who are fragilized, but a lot of people are having more isolated, more challenging. I think this issue of being a reliable tech player, of building trust, was always important, but probably even more so now. So just curious, first of all, what you're seeing in terms of all those issues around safety, reliability, trust on your platform. Is that shifting, more important? And then, of course, I think for the audience, what are you doing to actually assure that you can deliver on that? Maybe start with you, Helena.
Yeah, I definitely think it has shifted over the last couple of years. I've been working in tech for the last, I think 12 years. I worked for Google and Facebook prior to joining TikTok. So I think I think safety is very much at the core of what we do at TikTok every day. We grew very, very fast, and I think we're very much aware of the responsibility that comes with having 1 billion users on our platform. And I think as much as we grow users, we need to really grow our operations in trust and safety. Singapore is actually our trust and safety hub. So we have a lot of trust and safety staff working on our policies, implementing our policies, and actually really improving our policies every day. I don't think this is a job that is ever done. I think providing a safe environment on our platform is a job that is always continuing. It's never a job where you go to bed at night and say, now it's done. I think it's really something that we need to prioritize every day, and I think it's something we need to innovate around every single day, and we need to really ask ourselves every single day if we're really doing enough. And I think I'm very proud to work at TikTok, knowing the individuals that work on this, working with them very closely, and knowing that we really try to get it right, even though sometimes there's obviously always room to improvement. I think the tools that we offer and that other platforms offer as well, digital well-being tools, I think really monitoring how much time are you spending on the platforms. I think parental tools are incredibly important. I don't know if there are parents on the call today. I really highly recommend checking out the TikTok Safety Center and really learning and how can I accompany my children on the platforms. How can I make sure that they're safe on the platforms? So I think really innovating and developing safety tools, I think is really very important. And I think this is not a trend. I think it's a must do, but I think it's something that we all can still do better every day.
Right. Actually, so that's great. Nice answer, Helena. A few people are though, asking for a little more background, I guess, on TikTok, just to get them in the right headset. Maybe I should have asked this earlier, but in the social space, what do you think what makes TikTok distinctive? Would be one line of questions. Well, why don't we just briefly, if you wanted to sort of share for people who maybe don't have teenagers or haven't gotten on themselves yet.
Yeah, so I think what makes that distinctive is that we're really a short video platform. I think not compared to other platforms that maybe are photo sharing platform, we're really a short video platform. We started having just videos that were 15 seconds long. And so you enter TikTok on a feed and you get served videos that are based on your interests, actually. So it's an interest-based feed, and then depending on what your interests are, you get served a feed of 15-second videos. And I think very much we play in the field of entertainment. I think we bring a lot of joy to our users. I think there's a lot of, I would say, hilarious content on TikTok. I personally really enjoyed it. There's also I think a lot of SMBs that have moved to TikTok. For example, I think there's a lot of cafes in Singapore which use TikTok to show how they are still open or how they're coming through the pandemic or what they have on offer that can get picked up from their cafes in these 15-second videos. We also have a lot of features that can help enhance the video editing features that can help enhance your video. And I think TikTok makes it incredibly easy to be a creator. Everybody can be a creator on TikTok. And I think that's really why I think we were able to grow so quickly as well. It's because it's uniquely easy to gain an audience on TikTok.
Perfect. And then just now to dig a little bit deeper. So obviously the key thing is how you curate these feeds. Just how you want to say a little bit about the algorithms or the importance of the data science behind that, and I guess the flip side is when you talk about the parental controls. Am I right? The issue is the algorithms get so good that people just get sucked into watching over and over again, and so it's sort of helping people moderate their use. Is that a fair way to characterize it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't 100% agree, but I think it's very, like I said before, I think it's very important to watch. I think as much as on TikTok as on any other app, I think we should all watch our screen time. I think the screen time management features on the phone, but also within TikTok, the digital well-being features that we have that show you. For example, I have my TikTok time reduced to 45 minutes a day. After 45 minutes, I get a reminder that I have spent 45 minutes on TikTok and I cannot watch any more TikTok. And I think it's very important to use these tools and to be aware of these tools. And I think, again, TikTok is really an interest-based feed. So it will serve you also really relevant content around your location. So in Singapore, you obviously would get more Singapore-based content, and you would get served content that we think you are interested in and that you enjoy. For example, if you finished watching a 15-second video, then we would know that you're interested in that video, and we would serve you more videos according to that interest. I think what's also important is obviously that we have strong privacy controls and privacy terms. I think any company around the world these days needs to be very aware of strong privacy controls, and so that's very important to us as well, of course.
All right, let's turn it around on Alan. So sort of same thing. Actually, maybe probe a little bit deeper just to make sure people understand exactly the scope of Lazada in Southeast Asia, and then let's get into sort of what privacy, reliability, safety means in your space. But first of all, obviously, e-commerce platforms vary in, to what extent they work through third-party merchants, to what extent they run warehouses. Maybe just fill in a little bit for people what it is that sort of Lazada does in e-commerce and where does it partner out?
Sure. And if it's okay, I'll spend a minute to share a bit more about a kind of business commercial model. Many of us see e-commerce as e-commerce. We think of buying online. My mom, for example, right? She thinks of e-commerce as just buying something with your phone and not leaving the house. But for those of us who are in the industry, we know that there's different kinds of commercial models. On the left, you have the retail model, right? The retail model means that you have to buy stuff into your warehouse. You curate the items, and you would want to buy it at the lowest price as possible and sell it at a margin to the consumers. That's called the retail model. On the other hand, you have the marketplace model, right? Which is really around a platform model where you set up a mechanism and a structure, and you connect merchants with consumers or merchants with buyers, right? So it has always been our experience and our belief, from coming from Alibaba and now I'm in Lazada, that it's really important to scale, right? And the marketplace model is the right way to scale our business because we are leveraging upon the collaborations of SMEs in the market. We are also working in collaboration with big brands in markets. Many brands have come to Lazada and asked to set up official stores, right? So we have the Apple official store, we have the Nike official store, right? Where the best assortment coming out at the earliest times are made available on e-commerce. So we've experimented in the early days of Lazada. We've experimented first with a retail model, but more and more we are seeing a huge demand in the market, right, for e-commerce. So a number, I'm a numbers guy, right? So I'll just quote a few numbers to put into perspective. We use a number called the online penetration of retail spending, which in layman's terms means that of people who are buying and purchasing in the economy, how many are actually spending online? And in Southeast Asia, the number is about 7 to 8%, roughly. So of $100, 92 or $93 are still done offline, and only a small amount, right, about $7, $8 are being spent online. Compared to an advanced market like, the US, for example, or China, for example, the online penetration will be in the mid-20s to the high 20s, almost to the low 30s. Right? So you see a huge opportunity here. Then comes the question, Peter, that you're asking, right? How would trust and safety, really be an important factor for us? I'll give two stories that kind of paint why this is so important. Those of us who are living in Singapore, we might not feel it that way. But if you're living in other countries where access, that's my dog barking, where he's like saying, yeah, I'd agree. I'm a shopper too. But in many countries in Southeast Asia, access to basic products is a challenge, right? For example, infant formula, right? Where can you buy reliable, authentic, and safe infant formula for your babies? So you don't want consumers to worry when they come and buy something from Lazada that is not a reliable product, right? You want to know that coming to Lazada, when I actually buy something, it is safe, it is authentic, it is reliable. And if I have any problems with my purchases, there is the platform who will be there to support my purchase, right? So trust is really important for us because we want shoppers to feel that when they come to our business, they don't worry. They just enjoy, they look for stuff, and they really feel that their purchase needs are being met on Lazada. Another angle that we think about is we have a lot of data, right, that flows through our platform. And because we are a platform that drives commerce, right? We have data all the way from your transaction details. We also have your personal data, and it's a very, very we take it almost with a sense of deep responsibility, right? That we are here to protect our consumers' data and to make sure that privacy is met. And compliance always is about baseline. How can companies go above compliance and go the extra mile, to protect consumers' privacy and consumers' data? And within our remit of trust and safety, in Lazada. We take this very seriously. Cybersecurity is the area that we invest a lot in, and also with data science to ensure that we detect intrusions on our platform.
So actually, Alan, so thank you for giving the background, very clear and I think very helpful for people. One of the question streams I see coming in for both of you is around how do you successfully scale so quickly in this environment? Both your companies at the right place at the right time. Many people are seeing that. Alan, I'll pick on one piece you brought up, which is clearly partnering, and especially in your model, but in others as well. Partnering can be a great way to accelerate growth. Yet at the same time, you see, if you're going to deliver on the reliability, you've got to make sure you have the right partners on. Anything you can just share about scaling your partners in an effective way that you've learned?
Absolutely. We call them, we have many partners in our platform, but the most important group will be the merchants. And merchants is a very broad term that we use for, it could be a small business. We have people, they are in Philippines who opens a small mom and pop shop and they want to serve. We call it a hyper-local strategy, right? They only want to serve people within a 1 kilometer radius. So we will support that. We have medium-sized companies, right? They could be wholesalers or could be importers of items, and they want to be able to sell online. And we also have the big corporates, the big brands, as I mentioned earlier, right? Apple, Nike, and the likes. And the way to scale the business, again, I'm going a bit into business strategy, right? The way to really scale all the business is to think of it from a segmented strategy, right? So for example, if you are a big brand, you want to be assured of certain things like, for example, a proper commercial thing in place. You want to be a barter trade, with Lazada, how to co-brand together, right? And then you go all the way down to small, medium companies or mom and pop stores, or even a C2C platform. You know what? It has to be easy. One click, I want to sell. One click, give me my bank account number. I want to get money, right? And those of you who have not tried selling, I'd encourage you to, right? Try it. It's an awesome experience, to sell something and see the chicken, the money come to your bank account. And it really is transforming the way people look at business and consumers look at business, right? So, and when you do that not in a one size fits all, I mean, the beauty of having an online platform is that you can be segmented, you can be targeted, right? You have different plans for different people. And when you get the balance right, man, the scale just goes up very, very quickly.
That's great. I'm going to go over to Helena. I would say you must have some very good product managers evolving that platform when you have to basically address so many different users from big tech to mom and pop. So it's tricky to get that ease of use across that variety. Helena, a broad question to you. With all this growth you've alluded to, what are some of the things you've maybe learned or have surprised you about how you can surf that wave?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I think we all sometimes get surprised every day. And I think it's really about being agile and flexible. I think you can never stop behaving and adjusting and adapting to the environment every single day when you work for a platform like this. I'm sure Alan is experiencing this as well. I think there's obviously different kinds of scaling. I think scaling the teams is important, and there's no replacement for having local teams on the ground. And I think we've luckily started scaling local teams on the ground very early in Southeast Asia. And so obviously I also have teams in Southeast Asia that maybe I haven't met or haven't been able to see them for a while, but at least they are there. So I think TikTok's a very local platform, and being locally relevant is very important to us. So scaling locally is important, not just scaling in the headquarters. And I think this is a lesson we learned early on, and we're still learning that in the places where we have scaled locally, we are more successful. So I think that's definitely a lesson learned, especially culturally. You're just culturally more relevant. You're on the ground. You're able to, on the business side or the public policy side, you are able to meet partners, and nothing replaces that. I also do think that obviously then there needs to be scale on the technology side. That's very helpful. We've developed a lot of tools also we've recently also entered e-commerce, and we've launched a lot of tools for merchants to join the platform by themselves. We also launched self-serve ads so that businesses can use the platform a bit more easily by themselves. So I think it's scaling on different fronts, really. I think I also want to come back to the trust and safety topic. I think this is a topic that you need to scale with partners as well. So we are working very closely with NGOs in the field. There's a lot of government entities or nonprofit organizations in the field of digital well-being or mental health online that I think we need to tap into, and we need to go to them and ask them for their experience and sort of scale our operations, but at the same time also scale our partnership with people that have been in the field longer than we have, and really listen to their advice and tap into their networks and into their resources as well.
Cool. Let me follow up a little bit. You touched on elements of culture, what you're trying to build. Do you want to say, I mean, hard enough in the best of times to scale a culture when you grow fast, but especially these days, very hard. But I'd be curious, what do you see? What's the sort of emerging TikTok culture that you guys are trying to do? And maybe, and then the next place I'd like to go, just to let you know, is again talking about innovation, something you just brought up. And so, how do you embed innovation in the culture? But you know, first of all, broadly, a few thoughts on the culture you're building at TikTok, and then Alan will do the same for Lazada, of course.
I think this is such an interesting question, because for me, I'm really one of the oldest employees in Singapore, and so sometimes I say that I've worked for many TikToks, because obviously as you grow, there was a time at TikTok when we were in Suntec City and we were literally 7 people. That was a very particular culture where you just had to do everything yourself. Like I actually did a lot of market entry, and I remember literally mopping the floor in our first India office because nobody else was there to do it. And it was this very much sort of, and I just felt somebody had to do it. And this was this very startup culture where whatever needed to be done, you just did it. Despite your role or what your designation. And I think, and I can recommend this to everyone on the call, like being part of the early days of a business like this. It's an amazing experience, and I wouldn't want to exchange it. I wouldn't want to miss a day of it, and would do it again. And then obviously then we grew very quickly, and teams became more complex, and communication channels became more complex. And with all of that, there's obviously bureaucracy involved. And then all of a sudden you wonder, like, how did we get from the 5 people to the 500 people and then to the next 1,000 people? And I think what's very important, and I think this is where the founder's vision really comes in, and then that's a good segue to your next question. It's innovation. Like, how do you keep the entrepreneurial spirit alive in a company like this? How do you keep communication easy and fast? I think fast really is the key word here, because obviously if the growth externally is so big, how do you respond internally without with all these new employees onboarding, with a lot of teams onboarding at the same time, looking right and left and center of what is happening. And I think so the strong vision of the founder and a strong principle of having innovation at the core is, I think, very important. And just sometimes you do need to test and fail. I also believe that is important. And just being reminded by, we have principles, like many companies, we have sort of management principles. One is aim for the highest, and one is always day one, which I think means exactly that. It means exactly what I'm describing from my day one at ByteDance, where I was just there with 5 people. So I think kind of trying to maintain that entrepreneurial spirit. I think it's really the responsibility of every single manager in the company to try to adjust to the growing company, but at the same time trying to keep this innovation spirit alive in every single team.
Great. Alan, we're going to go to you on culture and how you grow effectively without losing the spark. But first of all, for the audience, do keep the Q&A coming. As you can see, it's influencing where we go. But do shoot us a few more suggestions, and we can we'll work that in. Alan, tell us a little bit about the Lazada culture. Have you solved this issue of how you be big and agile at the same time?
Yeah,
I would imagine that it's like being like a body wrestler, like a bodybuilder, and doing yoga. It's the kind of image you have in your mind, right? And that's what we always aspire to be. I'm not going to pretend to say that we don't have our fair share of challenges. And maybe I'll start with the top, right? With Alibaba. Maybe what kind of scale today are we, right? So for the last financial year, Alibaba, we processed 1.2 trillion US dollars in transactions, right? I mean, this is the amount of money flowing through our platforms and is flowing between consumers and between merchants, and also merchants investing into our platform, right? It's the kind of scale, and how many consumers are you talking about? If I bring it back nearer to Asia, right? In Southeast Asia, we have 110 million active annual consumers coming in, right? So the scale is not small as well. And these are people that come and buy something. So it's not coming to just, window shopping. Right? If I use the offline, a more layman's term, these are not window shoppers. These are actual people who are purchasing something on the platform. So, and the scale that we are today, compared to when I first, came to Lazada many years ago. In fact, I joined Alibaba first, as a Singaporean. I left Singapore very early. I was one of those people who are crazy enough to, leave the safe shores of Singapore, explore my career in China. And then with Alibaba, I came back to Singapore. And I've noticed that before I left and now that I'm here, the scale is so much different. There are things that we do to try and make it different. Number one, for example, having the right mentality as a leader is super important, right? So I feel that as leaders, one of our jobs is to be able to define roles and responsibilities very clearly, right? You don't want to have an environment where people are self-competing, because that will mean that you're wasting resources. You don't want people to re-engineer things, right? Because as a large company, that happens, right? So as a leader, it's really important. And I've seen that in an environment like Lazada, which we are big today, but I would like to imagine that we are still a startup mentality. All our leaders, from my boss, who's the CEO of Lazada, is super hands-on, right? Going down to details, asking about what's happening, and really caring about people. I think that is really a way to kind of send the message down onto our people. Another way to kind of keep things fresh and agile is to always talk about innovation, right? So there's always BAU. I mean, to those of you who are in-house, you will know that there's always the BAU and there's always KPIs and operational things to consider, right? But innovation is so important to kind of bring the breath of fresh air to the company. So, for example, in Lazada, we have people who is constantly innovating. How do I make the warehouse and supply chain much more efficient, right? Instead of having people to take a box and run, and put it in a basket, how do I use hardware, software, IoT, right? Blended together with routing intelligence, combined together, and make the warehouse a really efficient and smooth operations, right? So RedMart has its own warehouse in Singapore. And we have seen that, and if you have a chance to visit our warehouse, you will see that the people there are super chilled, right? And there's a lot of robots and machines going around. And it's really a pictorial vision of how we believe that technology can work together with people, right, to drive innovation and make things a lot faster. So I have a long list of things, but because of time constraints, I think I'll just leave with that story.
Oh, that's nice. Very nice. Actually, I have one other topic coming up. Both of you have worked around the region. You're now based in Singapore. So again, Singapore is a hugely important location for INSEAD and our alumni, but also for SGN. So any sort of comments on, maybe Helene, I'll put you on the spot first. How a little bit about what's distinct about the Singapore market, but also how it's doing as a regional location for you, and then Alan as well.
Yeah, it's a great question. Just for context, I actually grew up in the south of Germany, 40 kilometers south of Stuttgart, and I moved to Singapore 7 years ago. I was supposed to be, I thought I was going to be there for 2. It's 7 and counting. I think Singapore is a very important location for us that we're definitely investing in and that we're definitely building out. I think the diversity of talent is very important. As I mentioned earlier, it's also our trust and safety hub. The access to Southeast Asia is very important. I think Singapore obviously offers a very comfortable environment for many people from around the world. And it's really enabled us to grow very well as a sort of Southeast Asia hub, but also serving our other offices around the region, but also having some lead functions in Singapore. And yeah, I'm personally very grateful to Singapore's hospitality. To me, I think I don't know how I got to just live, how I got to 7 years. It somehow just happened. I have no plans to leave, so it's yeah.
Well, some people interested, obviously, in career opportunities at your companies. So I'm just curious, what is there anything your types of talent you're looking for? Also, locations. Is it or is it a lot of the sort of MBA-like type talent? Would that be in Singapore? Are you hiring for other parts of Southeast Asia? Anything you want to say on opportunities at TikTok? If people want to help you with your rapid growth.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for the support. This is going to be a hiring ad now, so we are actually hiring all across the world. Please go to our career page and check out all the jobs that are available. We are really still growing very quickly. We're still hiring. I really, just my best advice is to go to our career page. I'm also happy. You can also add me on LinkedIn. Actually, I'm happy to personally help. I think we hire people from all kinds of backgrounds, from very diverse backgrounds, from different nationalities, cultures. We need different language speakers. Again, I think being locally relevant is important to us. We are hiring all across our offices in Southeast Asia, all across the functions. So yeah, please just go check out the different opportunities. But I think there's a lot of opportunity at TikTok. We were also awarded a great employer in Singapore recently. So yeah, there is massive growth still ahead.
Okay, great. Alan, over to you. So both topics are up for grabs, both around how Singapore is working for you as your HQ, and then again about opportunities at Lazada. What kind of roles are you looking for?
Yeah. You know what? I think firstly, I want to mention that I'm very proud to be back home. I'm a homegrown Singaporean. Did my national service where I was like 15 kg lighter than where I was right now. And I think seeing Singapore as an economy, as a country, invest in digital and being the hub for the likes of Lazada, Alibaba, TikTok, Google, Facebook, right? Is really going to be a place where I think we're going to create a chemical effect, right? And there'll be synergies coming over here, right? So for us, Singapore is our regional headquarters, right? And we have much of a belief that Lazada is one company, but at the same time, it is also 6 ventures, right? It's spread across all of ASEAN. And we believe that the right way to serve the consumers in Philippines is to do it the Philippines way. Right? The right way to do it in Indonesia is to do it the Indonesia way. And it's more than just language, right? It also goes back to culture. It goes back to also the way of serving customers, right? We've noticed, for example, right, that in Vietnam, consumers love to call our call center, right? They love to give feedback, right? When they cannot buy something, when the flash sales is out, they love to call the call center, which means that it's customers first, right? And we have to invest and make sure that we will tailor to the taste of the local markets. Nearer to, I think there's quite a few audience who are based in Singapore. We are hiring aggressively, and the entire industry, if I may help to say for the entire industry, right? The entire industry, internet industry is hiring aggressively, and we need people from all skills. We need people from a marketing background, people from an engineering background, tech background, people from a data science background, right? I will instead focus on attributes. I think it's very important, right? What kind of attribute do you need to have, to enjoy, working in a company like Lazada? I wouldn't even say survive. Survive is like baseline. Yeah? You have to be, pumped up and energetic. And if I look at people around me, This company is a very vibrant company. Everyone is super smart over here, and being able to collaborate, having the spirit of collaboration, and being willing to roll up your sleeves, and to get things done is so important, right? So when I first came back to Southeast Asia, I rode behind the bicycle, not bicycle, sorry, the bike, not the bicycle, the bike, right? Rode behind the bike of our delivery person to look at how a consumer will actually buy something, right? So it was a hot day. I was there and I was following him all around the houses. And without that experience, how then do we design a product, an app, right, that works best for our employees and also for our customers? So every day is a hands-on day, and we are in the case where there is so much more supply of roles than demand. So like what was mentioned also by Helena, we also have a careers page. Feel free to reach out to me if you are keen to join the most exciting and also the most vibrant e-commerce company in Southeast Asia.
Very good. The questions are lighting up around, because many people feel the pain of how do you actually attract and retain these key roles. I think if you listen to your answers, you see some of the ways you're trying to position your companies to do that. But it is really it's a cliche, but it is a war for talent in these digital spaces. A couple of questions I'll throw out coming in, just to actually building on what you're saying. One is this global local. Both of you have talked about the need to localize, and that's important. Alan did just now, Helena, you did before. And at the same time, how do you juggle between, building scalable tech and uniform with the fact that consumers and regulation, it seems like local gets heavier and heavier all the time. So any further reflections you have on that is certainly of interest. Also, people are asking, I don't know if you have insights, just, how for many people, software programmers are becoming more and more important part of their companies. How do you manage them? How do you integrate between business and tech? So any thoughts on those two topics? I know, Helena, the global local one or managing tech, any additional thoughts? I know you've talked on those some.
Yeah, I think I'm a big defender of sort of the local versus global story. I think for me, having worked in Europe, coming from Germany, I've probably worked across 40, 50 markets. I currently cover probably more than 70. I always do feel that and I think Alan really made a couple of good points around this. I really feel you are more successful the more local you are. I think it is important to also respect local laws, to respect local cultures. And I think that is becoming more important for tech companies as well. And I think that thought that you can run a big tech company from abroad, I think that's a very flawed thought. And I think for me, as having been based in the region for a long time, I think it's very important to have a local headquarter and not just a European or a American headquarter. I think it's very important to also empower these local headquarters, similarly to what Alan said about the fact that his Philippine business needs to be run by the Philippines. And I think my Indonesian team needs to be empowered to run things in Indonesia. And I think that empowerment, I do feel that there is a shift towards more localization. It's what a lot of people call globalization, obviously, but I can see a trend to localization. And I also feel that companies during the COVID time, have really profited from having local operations and being able to call in to their local operations while just trying to manage the last 1.5 years from a headquarter, it would have been very difficult. So I think companies got rewarded if they had actually local presences, and managing this well is important.
No, I mean, the pandemic has accelerated a number of trends that were there before, but definitely this localization has really been, for me, accelerated. Alan, you've already said quite a bit on this. And anything though you want to add on these topics?
I think it's important to also give a flavor around technology talent. I think just now there was a few questions raised, right? What I've observed differently in Lazada, and also in other internet companies is that the lines between technology and business is blurring, right? So I have a risk of getting my age reviewed, but 20 years back, when we first started, are you an engineer or are you a marketing guy? Don't talk to one another, right? But right now, we see people who are engineering talent and they are awesome developers, and they think of business KPIs. That I think is really interesting, right? So instead of talking about agile, Scrum to get this thing up to market as early as possible, there is a downstream thinking, right? Is that how do I use technology to go live at the same time to achieve an outcome in business? And that is a really good way, I feel, for companies who have a lot of tech talent to define a joint objectives, OKRs, right? And I'm sure many people in the MBA has covered this in a lot of detail. How do you set objectives, as a manager? Define OKRs that can be jointly contributed by both tech talent as well as business talent. That's one, right? And the other, if in the audience you may ask, what if I'm not a computer science talent, right? What if I struggle, to write a single line of code? If A is more than B, right, I will struggle with that. What should I do, right? So it does not mean that you do not have a career in the internet industry. I think the ability to appreciate tech is also very important, right? You may not be able to code, but having a architectural mindset, right? Think of building blocks, For example, in e-commerce, there is a module around registration, there is add to cart, there's payment. So when you have an architectural mindset, you'll find that it's a very common language that you can use to really communicate with people in the engineering and tech background. So I thought that was a important point to raise.
No, thanks. We're going to start wrapping up. I have one last small question to shoot at Alan, but then I think the close, looking at the Q&A coming in, just going to invite you to talk a little bit about what excites you about the future. And really, and following up on Alan's comment, combining some of the power of technology that's already there and that's coming with how we can actually impact the world, how your companies can do more and better. So that's how I want to end. But really quickly, I never asked you, Alan, about supply chain stuff. It's in the news quite a bit. How concerned should we be about the stress on global supply chains? Is this something keeping you guys awake at night? Just any, from where you sit, some thoughts on supply chains.
I think there's definitely a lot of uncertainty, right? So without mentioning further again, with the government doing lockdowns on cities, our ability to deliver things to consumers get impacted. And I think what we're trying to do is to make sure that we have a BCP, right, which is the business continuity process, management around, or BCM, some people call it, is so important, right? 10 years ago, the BCM manual is like chucking your drawer. You take it out once a year, poof, blow the dust off, right? Now it's like you turn to page 5 every time something happens, So because, there's going to be a lot of unknown factors. So supply chain is getting disrupted. I have to acknowledge that in Southeast Asia. But with us having ways to diversify our warehouses, right? With a way for us to diversify our workforces, right? To ensure that if something happens, the lights get kept on. We may not deliver to you, dear customer, your parcel in the next day, but it will take us 4 more days, right? And I've also seen that consumers are a lot more forgiving in this period of time, right? They know that a person coming to bring the item to your house, right, it's not easy. And given the constraints, set by the government, given the weather, it's been more challenging. So I'm seeing a lot more disruption, but technology helps to get it smoothed out.
Great. Thank you, Alan. Glad we were able to cover that question. Okay, so this is it. Closing thoughts you have for the audience. Helena, why don't you kick off? What keeps you energized and excited as you think about what you and TikTok can do in the years ahead?
Yeah, I think I work in an incredibly exciting space. And so I think no day is like the other. Mostly my days get derailed at 10 a.m. mostly. So I'm very excited to be part of an innovative company in one of the most agile and fast-moving spaces. I also think we need to keep on our toes. It's very competitive. We are doing a lot of exciting things in the e-commerce space, and I think that really excites me. The way that our users engage with products and creators on the platform, it's very authentic and it's very real. And I think I'm really excited about that space and what we are planning. I also think that we actually have an internal platform that we use that is called Lark, that actually has made it very easy to communicate during the pandemic. And so I'm really looking forward of where we can take that platform and where we can find a perfect balance between in-person meeting and virtual meetings in the future. I think being part of this change of how we work really excites me, and I think it's really interesting. But generally, and then also obviously, I want to be part of being a thought leader in the space of safety, and I want to be part of making TikTok a very safe platform, and that I think is very important, and so that keeps me energized and keeps me honest every day. Yeah.
As someone with 4 kids, a hugely important mission to keep the digital space safe. Alan, over to you. What's exciting you about the future at Lazada and more generally?
Very, very exciting. In fact, if you ask me to kind of give a forecast of what will change, it's really difficult, right? And we are giving so much opportunity to employees to try different things, to innovate different things. But I think going forward, I see a kind of perfect mashup between 3 areas, right? Commerce as one. Another circle is around logistics, right? And a third circle will be around fintech, right? About transactions, Today
payment space is super hot.
Absolutely, right? I mean, right now, who knows, what these 3 bubbles will actually turn out to be. But I think that Southeast Asia is a market that's very interesting, where there's enough scale. There is enough diversity as well across the countries, right? And for example, right, can there be a day where we can truly offer next day delivery service to anywhere in Southeast Asia, right? Wouldn't that be great? Next day delivery for everyone in Southeast Asia, right? So behind that, of course, is many months and weeks of hard work, to kind of get the whole thing to be puffed up. So I think number one, we will see innovation in a combination of these areas. And I would fully echo what was mentioned by Helena as well. We are both actually professionals in trust and safety. My risk role, I realized I forgot to do a self-intro. Maybe I should do it before the session ends. As a chief risk officer for Lazada, right? Most people think of the risk officer role as a compliance role, but in Lazada it's very different, right? We use a lot of technology, a lot of data science to really drive the agenda, as I mentioned earlier, to bring trusted and safe experiences to our customers. So I think the combination of these 3 bubbles together will really help us to underpin how important it is to serve our customers and to make them feel safe on our platform.
Thank you both. We are out of time, so it just leaves for me to thank you both for the very energetic conversation. You both have front row seats on some of the most exciting parts of the digital economy in a great region. Thank you for sharing. I really think there's something around just the nature of customer relationships with companies that is being transformed. You guys are right in the midst of it. We don't quite know where it's going, but it's not going to be the same 5 years from now. So enjoy the ride. Thank you everyone for tuning in. There will be coming your way, I think there's a last slide here. Help us improve. There is a feedback survey. Here's some additional stuff that's coming your way. Join the conversation. Thank you, everyone. Have a great end of the week, and take care out there.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody, for listening.